Okay, we can bring you the grid then for our CNC Heads Northwest Sports and Saloons. This championship normally based up at Alton Park on an away day today at Donington. Some very special cars out in this one. So let's have a look at the grid. Pole position goes to the regular overall race winner. There are several classes in this championship determined by engine size and power. So it's the regular overall race winner Paul Rose in his Seeker sports car who takes pole position alongside number 94 John Wolfett. He's in a Spire GTR sports racer. Second row, the second Seeker, driven by 47 Steve Harris alongside Luke Armiger, number 18 in his Space Frame Vauxhall Tigra clone. Basically a national hot rod from the short ovals racing on the circuits. Third row, number 13 Paul Dobson in his Low Cost 7 kit car alongside 46 David Clark in another Seeker. The fourth row, 1, 2, 3 Rick Wood in something very special. He's the championship sponsor, Rick Wood, and he's in a Nissan Skyline RB26, a very special car indeed, that one. Starts alongside Gary Wardle in his Seat Cupra. On row 5, we've got 233 Jack Egar's BMW M3 and Darren Owen, Deadly Daz, in his Space Frame Ford Escorts. The sixth row, Simon Alloway in the Lotus, the Esprit V8. Hopefully he's made it out. We saw him have some problems in qualifying. Starts alongside Andy Bicknell, number 221. He's in a Ginetta G50. Row 7, 148 Don Hughes. He's well up in his Peugeot 306 alongside number 1, the reigning overall champion Jamie Cryer with his Ginetta G20. Row 8, Tim Foxlow. We saw him being towed in at the end of qualifying, unfortunately. His Space Frame Ford Escort, similar car to Darren Owen, alongside Guy Carter, number 3, in a TVR Tuscan. Row 9 is Paul Rotherow from the West Midlands. He's in a Citroen Zara VTS, the Aldridge Motor Bodies car, alongside number 74 Roger Evans in an Alfa Romeo Giulietta with an Alfa Romeo 8C engine. Yes, really. That's quite a special car. We'll have more on that later on. Row 10, number 23, Richard Hall. He's in a Caterham 420R alongside Rob Wakelin, number 30. He's in a modified Peugeot 205. Next in row 11, 128 is Ian Bruce. He's in a Honda Civic Type R. 97 Bruce Carter's Honda CRX alongside him. Row 12, Kingsley Ingram, long-time racer number 57 in a Ford Mustang. Starts alongside 75 Graham Smith, former Caterham Graduates champion in his Mazda MX-5. Row 13 is the veteran campaigner Chris Marys in a Honda Civic Type R alongside 118 Rick Walker. He's in a BMW Mini. Row 14, David Green, number 80. He's in a Honda Civic alongside Peter Kukulas, number 84, with his Toyota MR2. And the final row of the grid, 169, which is Jake Johnson. He's in a Ford Fiesta, as is Brian Allen alongside him in car number 37. Well, as the cars make their way out to the grid then, we've got a couple of interviews recorded in the paddock with a couple of our drivers from earlier on.
All right then, back down in the garages and with arguably, I mean, it's my personal vote, but car of the weekend in terms of delivery. Dave Clark, talk us through this one because it's a beautiful looking machine. First off, I want to ask you, what's it like to actually drive?
It's an amazing car to drive. The Seeker, it's it's on it. This is one of the lower powered ones. This is 400 horse. The green and black are 500. So, but no, it is planted. And as for the livery, well, that happened to be a drunken weekend on birthday with a beer pump and 2 rolls of vinyl that we discovered. So,
well, all cars have a story, so they say, and that one's one of my favourite ones. Look, I want to ask you a little bit about qualification. It's gone pretty well for you, right up there towards the top. How did it go?
It was slippery. We were testing on Friday, and there seemed to be more grip on Friday than there was today, but hey, I'm pleased. It's in one piece, which is the main thing.
Absolutely, and in terms of the race later on this afternoon, what are you expecting from it?
I don't think we're going to get up with the black and the green one. Let's see if we can get a 1, 2, 3 Seeker in Class A. That'll be brilliant.
Well, I wish you all the very best of luck with that and enjoy the race, mate.
Lovely, thanks.
Top man, Dave, thank you, mate. Well, welcome back down to the garages for our third and final CNC interview. Certainly not leaving the best till last, though. Paul, you put it on pole. Get that right this time. Talk us through qualification because it's obviously gone very, very well for you. Set a really fast lap. Guessing that's the hope and expectations for this afternoon as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to have a clear track, to be fair. Once I got a good lap in, I just kept hitting traffic. So the second qualifying time was nowhere near as good. But we did our best, you know. The track was really slippy, particularly on the entrance to the chicane under the braking point. I think somebody dropped coolant there or oil there. Other than that, it just went well.
And what's this thing like to drive? Because I've had a chat with a couple of your garage mates, and they all rave about these things. What's it like from your perspective?
The car is really good. I mean, it's very, very quick. It's trying to kill you all the time, basically. So it's great fun to drive. And we've been developing this car over the last sort of 5-6 years, and gradually getting more power out of the engine. And sometimes we go a bit too far with it, but now we've backed it off a little bit, and now they are reliable.
And in terms of Donington Park, we're here today. The sun's just starting to peek through some clouds. It should be a glorious Sunday, right?
It should be great. If it stays dry, it'll be brilliant. It really will. Looking forward to it.
So are we. To watch you. Best luck.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Cars on the grid then, ready for this 20-minute race for the CNC Head Sports and Saloon Car Championship. We've just had a bit of news through. Unfortunately, we haven't got either of these space frame escorts. Both Darren Owen and Tim Foxlow have had engine trouble in qualifying and will not be starting. Thanks to Paul Smallman for the information there. Kingsley Ingram in the Ford Mustang is starting from the pit lane by the look of things. Okay. Away they go then. It's John Wolfett, so it looks like, who has got the lead into the first corner. So they're underway. The green flag lap taking place while we were hearing from some of the drivers. We are underway. 20 minutes of racing, and it is John Wolfett who takes the early lead in the number 94, the Spire GTR. Second place is Paul Rose in the black Seika. At third place, number 13 of Paul Dobson. Luke Armiger in the Tigra is fourth, and then the awesome Calsonic Skyline. Car familiar to Gran Turismo players of Rick Wood, the championship sponsor and classic touring car collector, is up there in fifth place. John Wolfett, who's taken several overall wins in a couple of championships this year, leads the way. But it's a class-based championship, classes A, B, C, D and F. There's no Class C entries here this weekend. There's Don Hughes moving through in the Peugeot 306. Bit of smoke out of the back of the Skyline. Looks like Rick Wood is in trouble. Meanwhile, Paul Dobson, the Class B points leader, making a move on Luke Armiger there. They're battling for third. Behind them is Steve Harris, the number 47 Seika sports car. Rick Wood comes through next in the smoking Skyline. He completes the first lap then with John Wolfett in the lead ahead of Paul Rose. Luke Armiger in that space frame Vauxhall Tigra. Under fire from Steve Harris in the green JPR run Seika comes through. There's Wood in the Skyline. Then we've got the third of the Seikas, David Clark. Don Hughes in the Peugeot. And next through is the BMW M3, that's Jack Egar. But these two have gone clear. John Wolfett in his Spire sports car, so named because it's built in Chesterfield, the city of the crooked spire, of course. Rick Wood, that spoke seems to be clearing now. The Skyline is okay. There's the overall champion from last year, an overall championship leader, the little red Ginetta of Jamie Cryer, the Lancashire driver. This series run by the Northwest Centre of the BARC, the British Automobile Racing Club, based at Alton Park, but they race across the country. They go to Cadwell Park, Croft here at Donington, Knockhill in Scotland as well. You do get extra points if you race at an away round away from Alton Park. You also get points if you spend a day marshalling at an event as well. If the drivers take time off to marshal, they get extra championship points. A good initiative indeed. We've had a change for the lead. Meanwhile, Paul Rose, who, to be fair, normally wins these races overall in his very powerful Dutch-built Seika sports car leads. We've got one car in the pits there. That's Gary Wardle. The Seat Leon Cupra is in the pits. John Wolfett in second place. Third position, we have Steve Harris. He's got ahead of Paul Dobson. He's won this championship before, Paul, in a Mazda RX-7. I think his low-cost has got the RX-7 engine in it. He leads class. So Paul Rose leads Class A. John Wolfett leads Class B. Class D is led by the Skyline of Rick Wood. Here you can see some of the variety further back. We've got a group of Hondas here. 69, Chris Marys, who's been racing all manner of cars for many years. As Chris, a vastly experienced racer in his Civic Type R. And there's the CRX, a rare beast these days. That's Bruce Carter. He's running in Class F, leading the Class A. Class E is led by Don Hughes in his Peugeot 306, ahead of Jamie Cryer. So Jamie will be trying to catch him He leads the championship overall with 49 points at the moment. Second overall is Class B leader Paul Dobson with 41. And third in the overall championship is Graham Smith with the MX-5. He's got 40 points. So all the classes are combined to give an overall champion at the end of the year. Paul Rose leading the points in Class A, but he missed the trip to Cadwell Park and had some problems at Croft, so not with as many points as he would have liked. Jack Egar's M3 here, the big wide arch BMW, catching Don Hughes in his Peugeot 306. Chasing them is the Ginetta G50, that's Andy Bicknell, number 221. And there's that Alfa Romeo that we mentioned, and that car I think is slowing up. Yes, it's struggling there. That's Roger Evans' Alfa Giulietta Special Saloon, which has got an Alfa Romeo 8C supercar engine in it. Yes, really. Has to be seen to be believed, that car. It's taken a couple of years to develop and he seems to be struggling with it. Rick Wood, meanwhile, has pulled the Nissan Skyline into the pits, sadly. Don Hughes chased by Jack Egar. They're fighting for 7th overall. Jack Egar will now take the lead of Class D because Rick Wood has pulled off. Chasing Don Hughes. He's an old-fashioned club racer, is Don Hughes. Comes from Hampshire. Enters that Peugeot 306 Nelly event it's eligible for, really. There's a lot of racing in the Tricolore Trophy for all French cars. There's David Clark in his very smartly liveried Seika. Seikas have Subaru engines in them, the Seika Rapex, built in the Netherlands. Now, where's he in the order? He's in 5th place overall at the moment, in 3rd in Class A behind the other two Seikas. And the Fiestas being lapped there. Jake Johnson, the Class E Ford Fiesta. There's Steve Harris running 3rd overall, chasing John Wolfett for 2nd, the green Seika. Here's a battle further back. Peter Kukulas, the MR2 Roadster. He's being lapped by Paul Rose, the dominant race leader. Another Honda Civic being lapped in there as well. Gary Wardle's rejoined. He's raced various cars in this championship over the years. A Ginetta, a Porsche, a BMW Mini. Now in his Seat Leon Cupra, a TCR spec car, I think that one is. Certainly looks like one. Raced by Paul Rose. Paul Rose also the promoter of the Fun Cup endurance racing series for space frame cars with VW Beetle lookalike body shells. Saw them in action at Silverstone in a 4-hour race earlier this year. I think Paul's son Christian was racing in that, if I remember correctly. Paul's away and gone in front here in his Seika. He's leading by nearly 5.5 seconds now over John Wolfett, 2nd in the Spire. Further 2nd back is Steve Harris. Then we've got Paul Dobson. He leads, no, he's 2nd in Class B, sorry. Behind John Wolfett in the Spire GTR. There's no entries in Class C, so Class D is led by Jack Egar's BMW, Class E by Don Hughes. Who's leading Class F further down the order? That's led by Bruce Carter in the Honda CRX. There's Graham Smith, the MX-5. Marvellous mix of cars we've got here. It could soon be Seikas 1 and 2 overall. There's Kingsley Ingram, that's a new Ford Mustang, being lapped by our race leader, starting from the pit lane. There's Bruce Carter, the now rare Honda CRX, just moving out of the way for the quicker runners. Used to be a one-make series for those little CRXs back in the early 1990s. Somebody we saw racing yesterday in the Citroen C1s, a certain Patrick Watts was a champion in them before moving into touring cars. There goes Don Hughes. He's lost out to Jack Egar, the more powerful BMW M3. There's the M3 ahead of him. Chasing Andy Bicknell's black Ginetta G50 now. It's another Ginetta, the overall championship leader, Jamie Cryer. He's currently 10th overall, looking to retain his title this year in the CNC Heads Northwest Sports and Saloon cars. They will have another race later on. I believe it's the 2nd quickest time in the qualifying session, yes, that will determine the grid. Real shame we haven't got Tim Foxlow and Daz Owen, the ex-short oval racers, out there with their escorts. Problems in qualifying for them, and we haven't got Simon Alloway with the Lotus clone as well. We've lost Luke Armiger as well, and Roger Evans. That's the problem with these one-off special build cars. They're fast, but they are fragile. 25 cars took the start of this race, so we did lose a few from qualifying. really hope the Lotus comes out for race 2. Well, we say a Lotus, it's not really a Lotus at all. It's a Lotus Esprit body on what's effectively a Formula 5000 single-seater chassis with a Chevy V8 in the back. Paul Rose pulling away, lapping about a second a lap quicker than Steve Harris. Oh, Jack Eager in trouble. The BMW is pulling over. So who's going to take the lead of Class D now? Because we've already lost Rick Wood. Let's have a look back down the timing. It's going to be Rick Walker in the BMW Mini. John Cooper Works is going to take the lead in Class D. There he is, battling with Peter Kukulas's MR2. So Rick Walker in a moment is going to be leading his class, because Jack Ego we saw pulling over there. We've got just under 11 minutes of this race to go, so we're coming up to halfway. Paul Rose, as we often see in this championship, is out on his own in front. Paul Rose created a little bit of history back at the end of the 1990s. He was the first driver ever to win a race, if I remember rightly, in a Radical when they were first launched. Always an innovator is Paul. He competed in the Super Road Saloons Championship with the Volkswagen Golf for a number of years. He helped found the Fun Cup Endurance Series, and now in the Sakers. Tried to establish a one-make series for them a few years ago, but didn't get the interest needed. There's Paul Dobson in his bizarre, bewinged, low-cost kit car with the rotary, I believe that's got the rotary Mazda RX-7 engine in it. Paul used to campaign an RX-7. Jack Ego, we can see crawling his way back to the pits there in the background. There's Kingsley Ingram, that lovely new Ford Mustang. New car for this year. Kingsley just running it in, I think. White flag there from the marshals means slow-moving car on the course. It's the BMW. And we see our class leaders then. Class D has changed. It is Rick Walker leading the class now. The only other car in Class D is Gary Wardle, and he made a pit stop at the end of the first lap. There's Guy Carter, that's a lovely TVR Tuscan. We've not seen much of that car yet, Blackpool's finest. Back in the 90s there was that great one-make series for those rumbling beasts as well. Even the great Jerry Marshall raced in them in his early days, one of Britain's greatest ever national level racers. Guy Carter at the wheel of the TVR there gets put a lap down by the flying Paul Rose. Still about 8 seconds clear of Steve Harris in the Battle of the Sakers. John Wolfett still third overall, he leads Class B. And we've got Paul Dobson in 5th position. It is the third Saker, David Clark. Then we've got Andy Bicknell's Ginetta, who's being reeled in by Don Hughes in the Peugeot 306. He leads Class E. Now, Guy Carter is 8th overall in the TVR. That shows how quickly Paul Rose is going. He's lapped everybody up to 8th place now. Jamie Cryer is 9th. Second in Class E, the championship leader. There's David Clark, he's keeping pace with Paul Dobson. It's like an old Group C sports car from the 80s and 90s, doesn't it, the Saker? I think that's what it's designed to evoke, the shape of that car. And rounding out the top 10, we've got the man from the West Midlands, Paul Rotheroe, in his Citroen Zara VTS. The Zara, famous as a rally car. I think that's the only one racing in the on the circuits in the UK at the moment. Lost a few cars further back. Jack Egar's in the pits. Also lost Roger Evans, the Alfa Romeo, sadly. 4.7 litre engine from the 8C in that car. He found a scrapped AC and put the engine into this Giulietta space frame chassis and body shell. Hopefully we'll see that car out in race 2. We lost Luke Armiger early on, and Rick Wood, of course, sadly in the Skyline as well. There is the number 80 car being lapped. That's the Honda of David Green. David Dayglow Orange, we should call him with that livery. And there's Bruce Carter, the little Honda CRX. I think that's still leading Class F. Well clear of Graham Smith's MX-5. 21 cars left running out of the 25 that started. There's Don Hughes, continuing to lead Class E. Paul Rose continues his dominance. There's the little CRX. Rare beasts these days. The Carter family keeping this one running. Bruce Carter, I think, used to race Formula 2 stock cars on the short ovals, if I remember rightly, before switching to the circuits. Don Hughes leading his class. And there's our second place man overall, Steve Harris. He's 11 seconds behind his teammate Paul Rose, who's just on the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 10.539. Trying to work out which other cars didn't take the start of the race. We didn't see the 2 Escorts or Simon Alloway's Lotus clone. 30 cars came out in qualifying. Rob Wakelin's Peugeot 205 didn't make it out. And the other one, was it Richard Hall's Caterham? No, he's out there. There's one other car that didn't take the start. Not sure who it was. Might have been Ian Bruce, number 128 with his Honda. Not sure. Anyway. We have got just under 5.5 minutes of this race to go. The CNC Heads Northwest Sports and Saloon cars. Down the hill comes Don Hughes, and it's still Paul Rose with the overall lead of the race. It is usually Paul who takes the overall wins. He's leading the points in Class A, 10 points ahead of Steve Harris, with Guy Carter a couple of points back in the TVR. Class B, it's Paul Dobson ahead of John Wolfitz, battling for the points lead there. Class C, the points there led by Danny Bird, who's not out this weekend. We haven't got any Class C cars this weekend. The Class D points leader is Richard Walker, who is not here this weekend. But a lot of the cars in Class D, as we've seen, have hit trouble. Rick Walker is their leader in the BMW Mini. Make sure he's still going. Look down the order. Yes, he's 17th. Gary Wardle's got going again, the Seat Cupra. Jamie Cryer leads Class E in the points and overall as well. In Class F, led by Graham Smith, the Mazda MX-5. Well clear of Helen Allen. It's Brian Allen, I think it's Helen's husband, taking over the car this weekend. Paul Rose continues to pound round in that Group C, almost Group C lookalike Seika.
Just ensure that that's what he does. He's got 26 seconds second in the class, so you really want to just coach this car home. We've got 3.5 minutes.
Gary Wardle about to go a lap down, the plastics businessman from Cheshire. A bit of dust being kicked up there ahead of Paul Rose. He's coming up to lap his own teammate David Clark, who's now 5th. In his Seika. Kingsley Ingram will be lapped again as well, that lovely Ford Mustang. Somebody has pulled off David Green, number 80, in the Civic. He's trying to pull behind the barriers there, out of harm's way by the bridge. The bridge where Nigel Mansell had his famous incident, of course, in the Toka shootout in 1993. A whole book could be written about the events of that race. The sad thing is that nobody remembers who won that race, because once our Nige went out of it, everybody went home. It was David Leslie, for the record. The late, great David Leslie. David Clark is lapped by his team leader, Paul Rose. Just under 2.5 minutes of this race to go.
David Clark, so it now means that only the 4 cars remain on the same lap at this stage, so they're at the start finish line with 2 minutes.
There's Jamie Cryer, the little red Ginetta. He leads Class E and looking for the overall championship for the 2nd year running. There he goes into the Craners. And another class leader behind him, Bruce Carter. Carter is a couple of laps down now. 15th place. Jamie Cryer ahead of him is 10th overall, so Carter a lap down on Cryer. last lap this time, I think, for Paul Rose. Really dominant drive. He's nearly 13 seconds up now, but you can certainly appreciate, as we said, the variety in this series. You can use anything you like, whether it's a small standard hatchback right up to a special saloon type of car. This is the series where a lot of the old special saloon and super saloon racers from the 70s and 80s ended up when the championship was dissolved. The Thunder Saloons as well. I remember Rick Ward racing the old Vauxhall Calibra Thunder Saloon in this series a few years ago in the 90s. Look at all these back markers ahead of Steve Harris here in the bright green Seika. Gary Wardle, Bruce Carter, Kingsley Ingram and Rick Walker as well. Walker waves him through. Oh, there's contact! I thought there might be problems there. The Mustang has been hit. He turned in there, he didn't see the Seika, Kingsley Ingram, and the new Mustang is damaged. Oh dear. He just turned in there, he didn't see Steve Harris was coming through on the inside. Maybe Steve was too busy waving back at Rick Walker there. Well, he continues, he's still second. Lost a couple of seconds there. Well, it's going to be checkered flag this time for Paul Rose. There is another race to come later on. Hopefully we'll see the full complement of cars out for that one. Sadly, no escorts, and hopefully we'll see the Alfa Romeo and the Lotus out in that one. Hopefully we'll hear that Lotus as well. Paul Rose all on his own. Now, will it be last lap this time? Let's double check on the time table. Yes, it's 20 minutes plus 1 lap, in fact, so it will be 1 lap to go this time. Apologies there. As he comes in, there's the last lap board, so it is 1 lap to go. It's 20 minutes plus 1 lap is the rule in this series, slightly different to the other races we see this weekend. Almost forgot there. There's John Wolfett further back in third place, the Spire. Nick Johnson is lapped in the Fiesta. There's Paul Rotheroe, there's that Citroen Zara VTS. Zara also well known as an ice racing car. In the Andros Trophy in France, we saw them compete there against the likes of Ivan Muller. There's the Caterham being lapped. That's Richard Hall. So coming round to the checkered flag this time. Paul Rose in the JPR run. Seika coming through towards the checkered flag. Taken the majority of the overall wins this year. Here he comes towards the Roberts chicane for the final time. Nobody yet threatening his lead, apart from briefly John Wolfett in the opening laps. It's going to be a win for Paul Rose, number 48 in the Seika, crosses the line to take the win by a clear margin ahead of his teammate Steve Harris in the green machine. He's just coming into the chicane now. I think he's just lapped the third Seika of David Clark. Yes, there he is. Steve Harris comes over in second despite that collision with a back marker a couple of laps from home. He takes second place. Third is going to be John Wolfett. He will win Class B in the Spire GTR. Jamie Cryer comes across the line behind him. He wins Class E, I think. No, he's only third in Class E. He's lost out to Paul Rotheroe. Of course, it's Don Hughes who will win Class E in the Peugeot. And yes, Paul Rotheroe's got ahead of Cryer there. So Jamie Cryer only third in class. It's rare we see him beaten in Class E. Paul Dobson will take fourth and second in Class B in the low-cost 7. He's just coming along the final straight now. And David Clark a lap down in fifth in his Seika. The other classes, Class E we know is Don Hughes. Class D, that's going to be won by... Is that going to be Rick Walker, or has he been caught? No, Gary Wardle has caught him. Gary Wardle has won Class D. Yes, he caught Rick Walker up after that early pit stop, so the more powerful Seat Cupra wins Class D for Gary Wardle. Bad luck to Rick Walker. And Class F, I think there's been a late change there as well. Yes, Graham Smith overhauled Bruce Carter in the battle in Class F and took the win in Class F, so it was all changing the classes further back. Paul Rose takes the overall win though, we know that, by 16 seconds ahead of Steve Harris.
We also lost Rick Wood in this stand, RB26. We also had the retirement squad Roger Evans in the Alfa Romeo Giulietta. and the BMW as well, the M3 in the hands of number 233. That was, of course, Jack.
Pretty tricky to keep on top of all the classes in that one. A couple of late changes there. Class F, Graham Smith pinching the win in the late stages from Bruce Carter in the CRX. We lost a few cars in that one as well. Kingsley Ingram didn't rejoin in the Mustang after that bit of a wallop with Steve Harris.
Just after the lunch break, so that's in around about what's going to be 25 minutes now, so a very short lunch break.
We'll confirm the results shortly then.
Second race called the Untitled Championship, followed by heat number 2. Third race of the day, believe it or not, for the Legends Cars National Championship with MRF tyres. Then we turn our attention back to the Caterhams with the Sigma 135 and that second race at 3:35. Then we have the race we've just seen, the second encounter at 4:15.
Okay, we can now confirm the results. Seika 1-2 then. Paul Rose ahead of Steve Harris by 16.3 seconds. John Wolfitt winning Class B in third in the Spire. The only other car on the lead lap was Paul Dobson in the low-cost 7 in fourth. David Clark fifth ahead of Janessa of Andy Bicknell, and seventh for Guy Carter's TVR. Don Hughes taking the Class E victory in 8th overall ahead of Paul Rotheroe, and Jamie Cryer only third in class, completing the top 10. Ian Bruce in his Honda Civic was 11th ahead of Chris Marys in 12th in his Honda. 13th went to Richard Hall in the Caterham. Gary Wardle catching Rick Walker to win Class D in the Cupra ahead of the Mini. 16th place went to Graham Smith, and he caught Bruce Carter to win Class F. Behind them, Peter Koukoulas in the Toyota MR2, Jake Johnson's Ford Fiesta, and the remaining cars failing to finish that one. We lost Kingsley Ingram's Mustang, David Green, Jack Egar's BMW, Roger Evans in the Alfa Romeo Special Saloon, Rick Wood's Skyline, and Luke Armiger in the Tigra. The rest of the cars failed to start. We didn't have Simon Alloway, Darren Owen, Tim Foxlow, and we lost a couple of others in qualifying as well, of course. Brian Allen didn't come out in the Ford Fiesta as one of them. Hopefully we'll see a full complement of cars for race 2. Time to make repairs for some of them. There's David Green being towed away in his Honda. Thanks again to the recovery crews, the marshals and everybody else here at Donington Park for enabling this meeting to take place. We couldn't do it without them. The other car didn't get past qualifying, Rob Wakelin's Peugeot 205, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll see some of those cars out for race 2. So we can shortly hand down to Parc Fermé, and we will be able to hear from our podium finishers, hopefully some of the class winners as well, down in Parc Fermé shortly with Steve James.
There's no obvious identification as to which ones were chosen and why. I think there's a random choice of cars.
Well, welcome down to Parc Fermé with Paul Rose. You got the win there in the CNCs. Look, Paul, a fantastic race from yourself. I know it's not your first win in the season, but how does that one rank for you?
Oh, it was good. Unfortunately, the Seikas don't get off the line that well, and John in the Spire got a real good lead. But once we started getting heated to the tyres and everything, the car came together and he was fine then.
And it's obviously the sun's come out for you since we last spoke as well. It's a glorious day, isn't it? Perfect conditions.
Absolutely fantastic here at Donington with the sun shining.
And in terms of what you're expecting from the second race, I'm guessing a little bit more of the same.
Oh, absolutely. Always try for a win.
Well, that's all we love to hear, Paul. Congratulations.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Championship points. Live stream interview, we're now getting for the circuit interview, Paul. Like a mega star, aren't you? Happy to do one interview to another. Just talk us through the race. It seems as though...
Well, hopefully you can hear from a couple more of our drivers down there. Paul Rose has gone for an interview with the circuit commentator I can see there in pit lane, Mark Werrell.
These are Sandy's starts, and you've just got to put up with a couple of cars being in front of the first.
A couple of cars being recovered from the track at the moment, as we've seen. Just David Green and Kingsley Ingram, sadly, the Mustang, being recovered after that bit of contact with Steve Harris while being lapped. So thanks again to the recovery teams and all the Orange Army, our marshals.
You must let the paying customers win, surely. No, definitely not.
We'll shortly be heading into our lunch break. We may have another couple of interviews first with Steve Jameson down in Parc Ferme, though, before we resume racing after lunch. Our first race after lunch is going to be the British Truck Racing Championship. Then we'll have more Caterham racing and more from the CNC Heads Northwest Sports and Saloon Championship as well. David Green's Civic being towed into pit lane then after he broke down at the Starkey's Bridge section of the circuit. And we can head back down to Parc Ferme now with Steve Jameson, who's got some more interviews for us.
Standing by. Yeah, welcome back to Parc Ferme. We've got one of our division winners here. This is Don Hughes. Don, first of all, big congratulations.
Thank you.
Hot and sweaty conditions out there at Donington this afternoon, but how did you enjoy it?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, what a circuit. It's just brilliant. Got a mediocre start, but we kind of picked it up halfway down the lap, and yeah, we gave an M3 a run for its money, which is really nice.
It's one of those circuits, isn't it, where it feels fast and flowy, where if you get into a bit of a rhythm and a bit of a groove, you can really sort of make up some places, can't you?
Absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, you know, if you can carry the speed into the corners, it really pays dividends. Yeah, definitely.
And in terms of it being a lovely sunny day, the crowd's up on the banks. It's been a little while since we've seen that at Donington. It feels like a really nice weekend to be back, doesn't it?
It feels like a race weekend. You know, before it's almost like a practice session rather than a race. This is a proper race. Yeah, it's fantastic.
And it certainly was a proper finish from you as well. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Top man, Don, thank you very much, mate.
Good to hear from Don Hughes there. As we said during that race, an old-fashioned club race. So races his 306 anywhere it's eligible to compete in. We've seen him in a variety of different series. And a class win there in the CNC Heads Northwest Sports and Saloon Car Championship. We're now going to take a short break for lunch. We'll be back in action in about 20 minutes from now, scheduled with the British Truck Racing Championship at around 2:05.